Okay, so let's move on to slide 16. We're still asking the question, who invented the phone? Alexander Graham Bell was awarded the first U.S. patent for a device which ultimately became the telephone. So, who invented the telephone? That's debatable. Mr. Bell was the first to get to the patent office and and pay for the patent. Kind of a neat thing that the patent office had. You know, if you don't have the money to pay for it, you don't get it. First person with the wasn't the first person to get there. It was the first person to get there with the money who got it. Then we move on to slide 17. So others who invented phones or talking telegraphs, as they were called early on, Elisha Gray, Antonio Meucci, and Alexander Graham Bell. Those are considered the three fathers of the telephone. So let's talk a little bit about, learn a little bit about more about Elisha Gray. He was born in Barnesville, Ohio in 1835, died in Newtonville, Massachusetts in 1901. So he was 66 years old when he passed away. He was brought up in a Quaker family. He studied electrical engineering for several years at Oberlin College, a very good college in Ohio. He didn't graduate, but he ended up teaching there. That's kind of interesting. He founded a company named Graybar in 1869 in Chicago, named for Elisha Gray and his partner Barton. So they took the Gray and the bar, and you get Graybar. It was a wholesale distribution business for electrical communications and data networking products. It was the origin of the Western Electric Company. And in 1925, Graybar was separated from Western Electric as its own entity. And if I am not mistaken, Graybar still exists today. I'll have to look that up again. I looked it up a couple of years ago, and it was um, still selling electrical equipment. Um, Gray sold his part of Western Electric in 1875 to spend his retirement inventing and teaching. It's kind of like what I want to do when I retire. I don't want to invent or teach, I just want to do research and write. And maybe I'll be lucky enough to live long enough to do some of that. In 1876, he was hours too slow completing his patent application, and Bell took the patent and Gray's place in history. Gray called his telephone the harmonic telegraph, and as we saw before, he missed it by 2 hours. Interesting. History is interesting. We could have had the Gray system instead of the Bell system. And of course, you'll remember that I said that Gray's device was much better than Bell's device at the time. It's too bad. Eventually, Western Union bought both Bell's and Gray's patents in order to compete with the company that became AT&T.